Hey there, good evening. Nice to see you. It's time for the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and journalists and editors, people who put stuff out about the borough of the Bronx, so you can get a little insight into what they're writing, not only what they're writing, but also what they're thinking about when they do put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, et cetera, et cetera. In our second segment, we always do arts. We have, let's just put it this way, the hip hop photographer is going to show us original photos from when hip hop was created, uh, those many years ago in the borough of the Bronx. But right now, let's say hello to Samantha Maldonado from the city. She's a reporter where she covers climate change and the environment. Samantha, it's so nice to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Let's just a little background since we haven't had you on the program before. So you have always been interested in climate change, or I got the job, so I said, all right, I'll cover climate change. And
Well,
let's be honest.
yeah, that happened at my previous job, actually. I had been working for Politico covering environmental and energy policy. And so that's really what got me hooked on climate. And I joined the city about 3 years ago. And I was covering politics, but, climate was my area of expertise. And there's no shortage of stories about that here.
And from a moral perspective, a philosophical perspective, a literal perspective, what is it about covering climate change that inspires you?
Yeah, well, I think it's a big crisis, and it's aligned and braided in with so many other crises we have here in the city, whether that's health, inequalities, housing, all sorts of things. So you can look at climate from a lot of different angles, and it's always a challenge to find sort of the people story in it, and also to think about the future, but the future being here now, and sort of the impacts that we already see.
Well, you pretty much read my mind and read our idea of a story that you wrote, because here's an angle that some people haven't thought of. And I'll give a little of the background, having watched this process for, I guess, the few years that it's been. The whole idea of taking down and breaking up Rikers Island into four borough jails is out there. There has been a schedule of when they expect to make that happen. We can talk about that. But along the way, there was a lot of talk. Hey, here's all this space. Let's turn it into something green. Uh, the mayor came out. You wrote about it. Let's talk about what Mayor Adams wants to do over there on Rikers Island.
Yeah. So the Adams administration put out two different studies recently, and a couple weeks ago, and they basically have this vision for Rikers Island. And basically, what it looks like is how do we use this space for greener or clean energy? And so, in some ways, they've envisioned solar power. They've envisioned some places where offshore wind can interconnect, so that way it can be powered by wind, and that's being developed. And then also, sort of the big piece is this wastewater treatment plant. And they envision something new and something, a lot of environmental benefits. Maybe they can have biogas, basically kind of a renewable type of gas process there, and also just have a lot of environmental attributes that we don't have from
Right.
the existing wastewater treatment plants.
If just philosophically, and if you look at, from a city planning point of view, if we give you a large island somewhat central to New York City, I mean, you can get to Queens, you can get to Manhattan, you can go a lot from where that is located. Obviously, it's in the Bronx and connected to the Bronx. Um, if we gave you a big plot, what would you like to do there? And I'd like to think forward thinking people would say, yeah, let's turn it green. Let's make it green. So I think from a plan point of view, as just a resident of New York City, I say, wow, what a great idea. Sure, we're going to do this. Let's do this. We started out saying that the time frame is a little strange, and this whole Rikers process, considering that it's affecting four boroughs, and that those, including the Bronx, intimately, what where are we at, and are we really moving these into those boroughs by 2027? I guess that's
Yep.
my long-winded way of asking that question.
Yeah, well, that's up in the air right now. The budget director who works for the Adams administration said that we are not on progress to open those four borough-based jails by 2027. Um, And also, there's the jail population to think about. Those borough-based jails hold about 4,000 inmates, whereas Rikers is over 6,000. The population is over 6,000 right now. So that's a misalignment as well. And so to
Um,
get the population down to where we need, that will take a while. And Mayor Adams in the past has actually asked the council for to come up with a plan B to figure out if there's a way to not close Rikers by 2027, as the law says.
wow. So here we are in 2024. 2027 is still 3 years away. There are reports out there which talk about construction by 2035, completion by 2045, fully completed by 2060. I don't want to do the math, but you might not still be interested in climate change by that point. I mean, it's really 40 years from now is really a long way away. So in a way, I don't know how to express it to people. Like, should they be thinking about it? I mean, we're happy about it. I'm wrestling with it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think you're not the only one who thinks that way. It was sort of confusing because those reports that said, this green vision is feasible on Rikers Island, they came out the same day that the budget director had said we probably won't get borough-based jails done by 2027. So there's sort of a mismatch in communications here. I'm not really sure what to make of that, and a lot of my sources aren't quite sure either. But it is encouraging that it's possible to do these things. Just will it actually happen?
Well, that I guess for any plan, any large climate plan, and this would be one, you need to have an idea, and you need to have a good idea, and a creative idea, and a green idea. Um, uh, but if they get it done, as I understand, and this is music to Bronx ears, that wastewater treatment plant in Hunts Point will be gone. So I guess for my friends and neighbors in the Bronx, they have something to root for.
Yeah,
You know.
maybe. I mean, one of the possibilities was that they could replace 4 of the wastewater treatment plants in the area with this new one. But there was also a possibility that they could keep the 4, just upgrade them, and then add this new one as well on
All
Rikers.
right, let's do you and me. We'll do a quick vote in the Bronx. How many people want them to decommission the wastewater treatment plant in Hunts Point? I know all of my viewers who are watching are voting yes on that. But all right, we'll see which way that goes. Another thing you wrote about, which I thought was really interesting, as I mentioned to you, and you can see the apartment buildings behind me. I live in an apartment building, so the notion of my personal, and I live high up, so my personal belongings being flooded out is not that prominent. But this is a big thing for a lot of people in the Bronx and a lot of neighborhoods. Maybe I'm being naive about it. Let's just talk about the whole idea of flood insurance, which you wrote about. Do you need flood insurance and how to get it? A guide for New York renters in a city that is largely a collection of islands. Water is an underestimated threat, and don't my friends and neighbors who live in Soundview and Co-op City and over there on City Island and in the East Bronx and all the areas in the East Bronx, they know that all too well. So let's just talk about the flood insurance. Is it hard to get? Can you get it? Should you have it? How much does it cost? Give us a little background about that, if you would.
Sure. Well, this guide is specifically for renters because if you have a federally backed mortgage and you're in a flood zone, you actually are required to have flood insurance. Not everyone.
In addition to home insurance, which in some cases you're required to have. I know
Yes.
I live in Mitchell-Lama and I'm required to have home insurance.
Okay. Yeah. So it's in addition. And that's if you live in a FEMA flood zone. But renters aren't required to have it. And some have renters insurance, but renters insurance does not cover floods or damage from floods. And so to figure out if you maybe should get it, on a floor or in a garden level apartment, you can look and see if you're in a flood zone, and that could be either from coastal flooding, so the ocean or a river coming in possibly to your
Right.
apartment. And you can also check if you're in a low-lying area and might get stormwater flooding. So when it rains a lot and the sewers can't handle it, will there be flooding? And that can happen, often does, when you're not close to the coast. You're just
Especially if you've seen it happen maybe on a smaller level, and I certainly don't want to, predict Armageddon, but it's almost like Well, we've given you a warning. Maybe you ought to do it. Um, if you already have renter's insurance, you should add on the flood insurance. I mean, that was
Yeah,
one of the questions you asked in your story.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you're on a lower floor, and, your normal renter's insurance probably does not cover flood damage or damage from water, so you should look into flood insurance.
How expensive is it? And in this day and age, I would think the insurers are saying, "Oh, good, they need insurance. We're going to give you a nice little price for it."
Yeah, it depends,
I'm sorry. I'm so sarcastic.
no. It depends. People can call an insurance provider and get a quote. It sort of depends on where they live and what kind of coverage they're asking for. I had gotten a few different quotes, and they ranged. They were a little over 100 per year. Some were about 300 per year. I just gave some sample locations and got that back. And then there's also, you can go through a government backed program, or you can go through a private backed program. And so just what is covered, how quickly you might get the money if you do make a claim on it, and your premium really vary.
And what does it cover? I mean, let's say, well, wait a minute, I got this insurance, and now we really had a problem, and I lost my living room or something. Goodness, I hope it doesn't happen. But am I going to be
Mhm.
okay, or is it really kind of like, well, it's like dental insurance; they don't cover anything.
Yeah. Well, it does depend on what kind of plan you get, but renter's flood insurance is technically for covering your belongings. So if there is a flood and your belongings get ruined, they can cover that. It wouldn't
Mhm.
cover things that are outside your apartment. Maybe your bike is outside and that gets ruined from a flood,
Oh,
something like
or
that.
your car? I mean, a car.
Yeah, nope, that's not going to cover your car. It won't.
On the other hand, maybe your car insurance might.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't have a
Depending on
car.
what the rider is, yeah, yeah. I'm just
Yeah,
thinking out loud, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Uh,
So it's things in the apartment.
yes, exactly.
Samantha, we're, just about out of time, and so I'm gonna put you right on the spot. What's coming up? What are you working on? Give us a hint, or is there
Yeah,
nothing really happening and you're gonna go outside, put
there's
your finger out and say, "Is it raining yet?"
right, exactly. Yeah, that's how I do my work. I have my eyes on Local Law 97. That is the way that building owners are trying to get their emissions down for climate reasons and because of
Right.
the new law in the city. And just some new developments, looking where we're building housing and how much over the city.
And what it might do to affect the environment. Of course, it's been well documented that the biggest polluter in New York City is the houses, is the buildings. I mean, we know that. Listen, Samantha Maldonado from the city is the climate and environment reporter. Great, we're going to have you back. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Good. Keep writing great stuff.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Samantha. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I promised you, and we will do photos from the original days of hip hop. It's coming to the Bronx Documentary Center. We're going to talk about that. We'll be right back.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I'm thrilled because Joe Conzo is here. Ladies and gentlemen, I could do a drum roll on my microphone. The legendary hip hop photographer and so many other things, 9/11 hero and everything else that he's done. And being my friend, which is a nice thing. Joe Conzo Jr., nice to see you, sir.
Hey, Gary.
He's waving at me. Listen, we have had this a dialogue before about because you've got a show coming up. The opening is this will air Thursday night, so the opening is tomorrow night, March 22nd, but it'll be up through April 21st at the Bronx Documentary Center. I thought I would ask you this. I don't even know if I've ever asked you this. Now that it seems clear, and including from the photos that are behind you, we're going to see some photos that are in the show, that you are known as the hip hop photographer. Does it get old? Do you think about, all right, I know I was there, I took the pictures, I got all the pictures, everybody's seen them, or does it still give you a thrill and say, wow, this was a moment in time I haven't have been there?
Gary, listen, I'm happy to wear that moniker, that hat, so to speak, of being the man who took hip hop's baby pictures. But if you do a deep dive into my archives, it's so much more than just hip hop. As you already know, my dad, Joe Sr., was Tito Puente's personal confidant. So I have a lot of pictures of, the Latin greats, Tito Puente, Celia Cruz, Hector Lavoe, my grandmother, the late, great Evelina Antonetti, Dr. Evelina Antonetti,
featured at Hostos Community College all this week.
Exactly.
I wanted to just interject. Yeah.
Big community activists, So when I wasn't with the hip hop group or with my dad, I was hanging out with my grandmother at all these demonstrations like Fort Apache, the Bronx, and, the Board of Ed. And then it was just Joe and the camera walking the streets of the Bronx.
And so you were still doing it despite the fact that maybe it wasn't history.
Yeah,
It was part of you.
Photography, there's so many different lanes you can approach and go through. And I dabbled a little bit of everything, but I'm known for my hip hop photography.
Obviously. Because obviously in the old days you were using film and now it's digital. You love the digital age, or do you still wish you could kind of do what you used to do?
Listen,
obviously you don't want to pay for the developing. I get that.
If you love anything, you have to know where it came from and how it started.
Right.
Back in the days, you and I wouldn't be able to do what we're doing right now.
Absolutely true.
You know what I mean?
Back in the days, 4 years ago.
Exactly. So, I do miss the film. I try and shoot film at least one roll a month.
Do you? That was interesting. That's interesting to me.
It just, you got to keep it grounded to how, you started.
Wow.
Digital photography is just, if you want to stay relevant or current, you have to.
Also, listen, let's face it, it's a lot faster and you can do a lot more with it. You still shoot black and white? Like you see the world iconic in that way?
Oh, yeah. All the rolls of film I shoot are black and white.
Black and white. Wow.
And then with the digital, if I like it, I can take the color out and convert it to black and white.
When you wake up in the morning, or when you look out your window, or when you go down a Bronx street or whatever, do you see it in black and white? Or do you say this will look good in black and white? Or do your eyes all of a sudden look at it like that? And right after this, we're going to show some pictures.
To me, black and white is more colorful. If you can understand what I'm saying, it just gives it that authentic feeling. Color is a medium that you have to pretty much grasp it, because there's so many different colors that humans see. Black and whites, there's so many shades,
You can
and
see you can
love
see
it.
the whole scene. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now we should mention, so it's called Conzo, a look back at the Bronx 1977 to 84. So in a way, I distorted the reality by saying, oh, it's a hip hop show, but it's really the culture of that era in the borough of the Bronx.
It's almost like my meat and potatoes of the Bronx.
Okay.
Because Gary, you 77 to 84 was a pivotal time in the Bronx. The Bronx was burning. We had 2 presidents come visit the Bronx.
That's right.
Reagan and Carter.
Yeah, that movie, which we're going to see a couple of
Fort
shots from.
Apache, the Bronx,
Right,
was being filmed.
right,
It was just so much going on in the Bronx in that period, that short period of time. The
right.
birth of hip hop, hip hop coming to fruition, Latin jazz,
Yeah,
Latin
well,
music.
we could spend a lot of time listing the musics that we invented. I have to say.
Yes.
All right, so let's take a look. We're going to just a sample. This is what people will see at the Bronx Documentary Center. A look back at the Bronx, 1977 to 84. Anderson's made this selection, so let's see what he's got.
Okay.
Here we go. Fort Apache, right?
And that's taken right there in Cortlandt Avenue, right around the corner from the BDC. And I love how the
Wow.
cobble streets, look at the streets. But
Anti-Puerto Rican, anti-black movie.
yeah.
Do you know any of those people?
Uh,
Even today? Probably not.
Not in that particular shot.
All right.
Not
But
in
you know
that-
some of them. All right.
Yeah.
Keep going. Let's do it. Oh, this is the one that's behind you, right?
Yeah, and that's a typical block party. Third
Typical
Avenue,
block party.
block party right in front of the old Wiz on Third Avenue and 156th Street, 57th
Uh-huh.
Street. And I was shooting from the Wiz, looking down, and that's the Mean Machine.
Wow. There's something amazing about that. And there are a number of things amazing. The number of people, and for you to say that's just a typical block party, folks, today, think of that, if that being a typical scene. And these were not riotous, these were just people, Bronx people being people, multi-ethnic, expressing themselves, developing a new way of music, of speaking of the world, using the rap and the rhythms to right.
And
I mean, I'm taking it away from you, right?
And just having fun, Gary. Having fun.
Wow.
That's what it was about.
And you think about any people that are going through a traumatic thing, which of course was the burning of the Bronx, and then having this come and say, wait a minute, we're still here. Listen, Nos Canamos, we know about all that. We're still here. We stay. This is our home. This is our culture, and we're creating it. How exciting!
It is, and that's one of the things that I tried to portray in this exhibition. As bad as we were portrayed in Hollywood movies
in Fort Apache, the Bronx,
and in media, there was a lot of beautiful things going on in the Bronx.
And this was one of them. All right,
Yeah.
Keep going. Now, what is this?
So, I was brought up. If you love something so much, you know the humble beginnings of photography, and this is my attempt at light painting. And everybody knows Pablo Picasso as a painter, but he was also a photographer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Did a lot of
Okay.
light painting, and that's me experimenting with black and white film. And I'm not going to go into how I did it, but that picture took about 10 minutes to do.
Wow. Unlike the others where you just stood there and
Yeah.
snapped the shutter.
Yeah.
Should we ask who that is?
That's me.
Oh, that's you?
That's me. I actually
Could
put
we
the
show that
camera-
again?
I put the camera on
Wow.
a tripod.
Frankly, it looks like the legs. I mean, I don't know what your legs
So
look
I'm
like.
flashing. There's 3 flashes. It's what we call a time lapse photo.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that's me standing up in the corner. So that took a few minutes to do. But like, if you know anything about photography, film records light. So there's no lights. It's pitch
Wow.
black in my living room. And I'm just experimenting. with film.
Fascinating. Well, these are the kinds of things that people will see. Keep going. I think we got a couple more. And there's many of them. Now look at this.
Well, again, another thing, if you're not part of the if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And one thing that my grandmother and my mother portrayed with United Bronx Parents, their organization, is that if we can't get the city to do anything, we're going to do it ourselves. And we're cleaning up vacant lots, making them accessible
Wow.
to the youth.
And this, it's funny. When I looked at that picture, I said, well, these are the people who saved us. These are the people who said, okay, this happened, our home, we take care of it.
We're going to take
BTCB.
control of it
Yeah.
and do something about it.
Wow, tremendous. All right. I don't know how many more we have, Anderson. Yeah.
This is Charlotte Street. Charlotte Street was the
Wow.
poster child of the Bronx at the time, and this is during Reagan's visit to the Bronx. This is during the Democratic National Convention in New York City,
Wow.
and Jose Rivera, Assemblyman Jose Rivera, put together his own People's Convention in the Bronx, and they hung up a three-story Puerto Rican flag to protest what was going on at Madison Square Garden with the DNC going on, and
Wow.
Reagan coming to visit, trying to solicit votes.
And then there's that famous video of somebody yelling at him, and he's
Yes,
saying, "Oh, government can't do everything."
yeah, that's why I need your votes. You need to vote
Yeah, yeah,
Republican
yeah.
and this, that, and
Yeah,
the other.
yeah.
Yeah,
And also, you don't have pictures of it. Of course, it's a historic moment. I'm just thinking of that era, 1978. Howard Cosell got that wide shot above Yankee Stadium,
behind
and
Yankee
I
Stadium.
remember it to this day. And I was like, and he said, ladies and gentlemen, the Bronx is burning. My word. Anyway, Joe, so this is going to be another great joy from you. I know we did the one at Hostos Community College a little while back. But so the opening reception is Friday, March 22nd. That's we start airing this on Thursday, so you'll be able to see it tomorrow night. But the exhibit is open through April 21st. The gallery hours Thursday and Friday 3 to 7, Saturday and Sunday 1 to 5. The address, if you need it, 364 East 151st Street in the Bronx. You must be really proud. Must be
I
really
am,
happy.
Gary. This is a solo show. I've been a part of some of the biggest group shows
Yep.
around the world, around the country, and this to me is almost like a coming home show.
Yeah, well,
It's
because you just told us that this was a picture down the block from the Bronx
yeah,
documentary center, so it really is this is the local show. All right, we
yeah.
got about 1 minute. Do you go out and shoot photographs and say, "Oh, I'm going to take pictures today," or do
I
you
can
just go out and live your life and then you say,
everywhere
"Oh,
I
look at
go,
it"?
I have a camera with me.
Uh-oh.
Everywhere.
Even now you're going to record this? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Joe, listen, you're the best. I love you, and I'm going to come out there definitely for the opening. I hope everybody gets to see it. It's our home, it's our culture, it's our lives, and maybe nobody has captured it better than Joe Conzo Jr. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary.
Great. Okay, folks, that will do it. We thank Samantha. Of course, we thank Joe for his generations of artwork in the Bronx. And that's it for this evening on the Bronx Buzz. If the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, all right, I'll be back next week. See you.